Well, welcome to another amazing episode of the Marketplace Pastors Podcast. I am so excited about season 5 because season 5 is stretching us. It is growing us in ways that I have never imagined. I believe that every single guest co-host that will be joining me in the boardroom is going through a season of stretching. And in the stretching, we are all learning amazing things that we want to share and impart as we're walking through these seasons. You know, a lot of times when I go back and listen to previous seasons of the podcast, it's like, oh, that was so good. I needed that today, right? And I don't know about you, if you've ever gone through and like read through your journals, or you've ever gone through and just reviewed notes in your phone or anything like that. And at the time you took these notes or you inked these thoughts, but maybe you didn't realize how significant they were in that moment. And so lately I've had the opportunity to, review some of my notes and review some of my journals from like 10 years ago, and how prophetic they are for the season that I am in right now. And today's guest co-host has done the very same thing. He has had the amazing opportunity to ink words in seasons that are so relevant to where we all are right now, as well as a season that he's currently walking through. And our guest co-host today is no stranger to the Marketplace Pastors Podcast. So we just want to, first of all, introduce his amazingness. First and foremost, his name is Mr. Paul Wilson Jr. And you met Paul Wilson, I think season 2, maybe season 3. And we unpacked all of this goodness around entrepreneurship and just leading God's way and doing things from a kingdom marketplace perspective. And in this season, he's back. I'm so excited because Mr. Paul Wilson is the founder and CEO of Paul Wilson Global Solutions. Paul is known as a visionary leader and dream catalyst, and he's helping people and organizations unlock purpose, passion, prosperity. And for nearly 2 decades, he's been driving transformation through innovation, through consulting, through leadership development, high impact training. He's worked for Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, churches, nonprofits. He's done a lot, right? And I like to say he's my mentor. And I'm excited about that because I believe that we're in this aligned space right now where we can really start to sharpen each other in this new journey that we're in together. Paul's leadership includes executive roles at the Urban League of Greater Atlanta and the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, which is where I met him, in addition to Georgia State University's Small Business Development Center. And he's been a powerful advocate for minority businesses and community development, not just here in the U.S., though, but across Africa and Latin America. And that is what makes my heart excited as I prepare to be a bi-continental girly. I'm so excited. And so along the way, Paul has authored multiple books. He's launched programs that fuel ecosystems and inspired countless leaders to pursue their God-given purpose. He's also a devoted husband for more than 24 years and a proud father of 4. So I want to say welcome back to the Marketplace Pastors Podcast, Mr. Paul Wilson Jr.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. So good to be back.
I am so excited.
Yes,
every time we have conversations offline, they are so full for both of us.
Yes,
I think you alluded
absolutely.
to the last one. I feel like I was in a therapy session.
Right. Exactly.
So you got to have friends like that where a phone call feels
really
like therapy,
Right. Definitely. I was laying on the couch. I just needed to get it out, right?
You know what I'm saying? And that's how it is. That's the iron sharpening iron. And, in this season of my life, the Lord has also had me leaning into, authentic relationships versus transactional related relationships.
Yes.
And in the business space and in the marketplace and in a lot of the space that you and I have been in together, a lot of things are just really transactional.
Mm-hmm.
And you get tired of feeling like these are such surface level relationships, very transactional. I don't talk to this person on Thanksgiving and Christmas. We
No,
don't talk on
exactly.
birthdays, or
Exactly.
special things, special occasions. And I
Right.
think we need to move. That's a paradigm shift within itself, that we have to
Yes.
literally move
Yes.
beyond, those surface level transactional relationships and really begin to build meaningful relationships, because
Hmm.
I believe that that is what is going to sustain us in hard seasons, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Indeed. Indeed.
Yes.
So yes, and I mean, like I said, when we talk about transactional, it's like it's just this exchange. You get it done and you move on, right? But like you said, these real relationships, real connections, is what sustains us, right? And that phone call unexpected or that text message, that's the thing that's like, okay, I needed that. The Lord knew I needed that, and it's sometimes it's right on time. We don't realize, somebody's thinking about us, somebody's praying about us, but God always has somebody that can help boost us right when we need it the most.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And that is also the power of being in divine alignment with God,
Yes.
because throughout the day, He's whispering people's names. Send a
Hmm.
text,
Right.
check in on so and
Yeah.
so, and I may have not spoken with them in maybe 6 months, but
Hmm.
He was
Right.
that
Right.
person, he or she was on the mind of God. And I
Yes.
was so in
Yeah.
alignment to hear His voice that I'm like, oh, let me check in. Let me send a
Hmm.
text. Let me, you know what I
Right. Right.
mean? And we can't become so consumed with, life, that we
Yeah.
forget that there are people who really need to be encouraged in this season,
Right.
especially as we're navigating transitions. And so this
Yes. Yeah.
conversation is going to be juicy today, y'all. I
Right.
just
Right.
hope y'all ready. I want you to put your
Exactly.
seatbelt on, because
Right. Right.
because
It'd be
God is,
powerful.
He's been pruning us, man, on
Yeah.
this backside of this mountain thing. And,
Right.
Paul is relaunching this amazing book that he inked a number of years ago called
Hmm.
Purposenomics. And I wanted to lead with this conversation because, first of all, Purposenomics is dope. Okay.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. That's a God idea. I'll just
It
let
is
that is
a
a God
God
idea.
idea. That's like
Yeah.
me with this
Absolutely.
whole wellpreneur,
Yes.
right? Or that
Absolutely. Absolutely.
purposepreneur. I evolved
Yes.
from purposepreneur to
Gotcha.
wellpreneur, because
Yes.
it's all about making sure that people are well and whole in what they're doing and
Right.
with their business. Because we be grinding out here
We do.
having
We
heart
do hard.
attacks,
Right. Exactly.
dropping
That is
dead
not. That
in
is
the
not the
middle of
plan.
building.
Right.
Ain't nobody
Right.
got
That is
time for
not
that.
good.
We got things to
No.
do.
Exactly. Exactly. We want to be able to benefit right from all this building that we're doing, and not just die
That
unexpectedly or
part.
be before our time. Yeah. Absolutely.
That part. So go ahead and lean in and just share with our
Yeah.
listeners and watchers today. How has like your career journey like shaped the message of this book? Like you
Yeah.
combine, the titles of purpose and economics. And so how do you
Right.
define purposenomics? I'm having a hard
Right.
time saying
Right.
purposenomics
Exactly.
in simple terms, for people
Right,
like
right, gotcha.
me.
I hear you. I hear you. So I'm gonna give you a simpler formula, but then I'm gonna bring a little bit of historical context to kind of where some of that name came from. So Purposenomics, which is interesting, God gave me this formula long after I wrote and released the book to simplify it. Right. So when we talk about purpose times profit equals prosperity, right? Purpose times profit equals prosperity. And we look at scripture, right? Where it talks about Second John, right? I pray that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So God desires that we prosper in every single area of our lives. But what purposenomics really comes into play is you think about economics, think about work, we think about the workforce, think about the economy, right? And so much of our time is spent working, right? Of our working lives is spent working, but so many people are miserable, right? Because they're doing work that they hate doing, or they have to do it just to pay the bills, and that's not God's best for us, right? Jesus said, "I came that you might have life and that more abundantly," and He wasn't just talking about when we get to heaven, right? We're supposed to be experiencing at least some, if not a lot, of that abundant life here on the earth. So it has to be the place where we spend most of our time. Where's the abundance in that, right? And I'm not just talking about financial, which that should be part of it, but where's the fulfillment, the joy, the excitement, where on Monday morning I get to go do my purpose, right? Not I have to go somewhere, right, and dredge and wait till the next Friday, right? And so that's really the essence of Purposenomics. But in terms of a principle, so the word economy, right, actually comes from medieval times, and with monks, right? And so in the case of a monk, the word economy means management of a household or management of the whole, right? And so in that context, monks, they lived, they worked, they played, right? They worshiped, right? Everything was within one combined or encapsulated community, right? And so their economy, right, was financial, right? Because they invented things, they sold things, right? They did all this, but also, right, they had the fulfillment of their entire lives there. So that's kind of where that comes out of, to say, if we're supposed to be managing a household, managing ourselves, right, managing a business, and the purpose that's connected to that, there should be fulfillment in that. There should be joy in that, but also there should be prosperity in terms of we have no lack, right? We have more than enough to be able to share and invest in others. So that's kind of the baseline of kind of, where purposenomics came from, and the importance and significance of our work life, and it should be worship God, of course, but also we should be receiving some fulfillment in doing the things God has called us to do.
Hmm. How do you think that people get to a place in their work where they're no longer fulfilled? You know how you start
Mm,
off and you're excited and you're
yes,
fulfilled, and this is what God has called me to do, and I'm building this, and I'm Nehemiah, I can't come down. But
right,
then
right,
somewhere in the middle of it, it's like, I don't like this anymore. Like,
yeah, right,
what,
right.
what do you think is happening right there?
I think people get stuck in routines, right?
Okay.
Like I said, we look at our Monday through Saturday routine, or Sunday to Saturday, right? So let's say if we're talking about believers, I may go to church on Sunday, I get up and go to work Monday through Friday, and then I'm looking for the weekend, and I just do it all over again, right? And then my day may look like, okay, I'm drudging to get up because I'm probably tired, right? I'm fighting through the day because I don't like my work, I don't like my coworkers, right? Or I'm struggling, not making enough money, right? And that pressure and that stress is there. And I'm just trying to get down to the end of the day to get through dinner, right? Maybe have a little bit of quality time and not go and do it all over again. And I think a lot of it comes back to we've lost the adventure in life, right? And in many ways, we've lost our adventure with God, right? Expecting the unexpected, right? Looking for the wonder, looking for the things that are not routine. Because in some cases, when we have routine, we feel like we're in control, right? So sometimes the routines aren't happening to us, it's routines recreated because we wanted to be in control, right? From that standpoint. So if I can control my Monday through Friday, right? If I can control my weekend, if I can control even how I worship, right? I feel like I can. It may feel more predictable, right? From that standpoint. And so part of it, I think, it starts with our relationship with God, but then also our relationship with work, right? And what we expect from our work, what we desire from our work, and maybe there have been disappointments, right? Even myself, first part of my career, I was trying to get to that corner office, right, on the top floor. That was my initial goal coming out of college. And when it didn't work in the timeline that I wanted, I'm starting to look for something else, right? Now I could have just sat around and pouted, gotten angry, and not that I didn't probably feel like that way sometimes, or I may decide to go do something more proactive about it. So for me, I decided to start a business, and this is a long time ago, in the beginning of my career. But I think for a lot of people, they just didn't just settle. If I had a disappointment, I got hurt, my goal, I didn't achieve my goal in the time I wanted to. Now I settle, right? Because I start doubting God, doubting myself, right? Believing my circumstances more than I believe God, as if only special people accomplish their goals, right? Or only certain people get to do incredible, amazing things. And I'm just little old me, and I'll just sit right here and be content. And I think that's part of the trick of the enemy, is that we don't really understand contentment. And contentment does not mean settling for mediocrity, right? It does not mean staying stuck somewhere and pretending like you're happy when you're really not. That is not, what God means, and what Paul even meant, by contentment, right? And so I think those are some of the things that we get hung up on, we get caught up in, and don't know how to break those cycles, right? When we get kind of stuck in those ruts and routines.
Yeah, ruts and routines, I think, and wonder. Um,
Mm,
that really like resonated with me because one of my prayers, and there's a song I think too that says the same thing, is that I want to always maintain my childlike wonder with God. Like,
Yes.
as long as we've been walking with Him, we can't become familiar with Him
Right.
because there's
Right.
so
Right.
many things
Absolutely.
to explore in that relationship, right? And I think to your point, even church and
Mm-hmm.
religion can
Yeah.
become a routine. I go to church on
Absolutely.
Sundays, we eat out, we come in, we pay our
Right.
tithes, we clap our hands, we hear two songs, we hear a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sermon, here's the announcements, and then we're out. Like, even that
Right. Right.
routine
Right.
can become boring, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so I
Absolutely.
think when we are open to new experiences and new encounters with God, not only in our personal life, but even in our business and what we're building
Mm-hmm.
and our purpose, He's able to show you new and exciting ways to do something that you've been doing for 10
Yeah.
years, for 15 years, for
Absolutely.
20 and 30, just like this book you wrote, right? It's
Yeah.
like I
Absolutely.
inked
Yeah.
it X amount of years ago, but I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea what God was about to do with it. Now He's doing this
Right.
and He's doing that and He's doing this with
Yep.
it. And what I thought was just a book is now this, right? And
Yes.
so
Absolutely.
that to me is an example of how God can take something that seems small,
Mm-hmm.
insignificant, or that you've been doing routinely and mundanely for X amount of
Right.
years,
Right. Right.
and He can breathe new life in it as you cultivate that level of
Yeah.
intimacy and relationship with Him, which is what we've been unpacking. This
Right.
season is about the importance of waiting
Mm.
with God, right? When you're
Right.
waiting
Right.
with
Right.
Him, He's able to reveal and share, things with you that you have never seen before. And I think
Yeah.
that's what happens. We get the promise, we get the purpose, and then we leave God in the dust. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
thanks,
I
God.
got it from here. Right.
I got it. And you're like,
Right. Right.
really? And then what happens?
Mm-hmm.
You get in that rut, which I think you call like the purpose gap. That
Mm-hmm.
rut, you
Yep.
get in that place where you're like, I'm doing my purpose. Oh, thank
Mm.
you for the promise. But now I'm bored because people don't
Right. Right.
realize they have to continue to evolve and grow.
Yes.
What do you want to share with them about that?
No, and that's powerful too when you talk about the purpose gap and evolving and growing, right? Because I believe our purpose stays consistent for the most part, let's say throughout our lives, but the expression and manifestation of that will change from season to season. And I think that's the other thing too about these ruts and routines is that people may even feel like, oh, I'm doing my purpose, right? Or I'm doing anything I believe God called me to do. And let's say you're a singer, right? But you think that the only way that you can fulfill your purpose is being on this big stage. Well, there are so many ways and places and demonstrations and career paths, right? That a singing gift or singing a purpose connected to singing can be expressed. So I think that's the other thing that we get stuck in is that we may have a certain gift or a talent or skill, and then we look at other people, right? And we just want to aspire to do that thing, right, that the other person is doing, and that may not be God's intent for you, or it may not be the season for that, right? It may be the season where you have to kind of behind the scenes prepare, and so maybe you get to sing to little children in the youth ministry, right? Or maybe you're a teacher in the elementary school and you get to make up songs for your students. If you're honoring God with your gift, He is pleased with you, right? And not just because you did or didn't make it to a stage or get a record deal or people globally know your name. That's not the goal. The goal is, am I doing what is honoring God? And if I'm talking about my purpose, right? And again, let's say as an entrepreneur, we're talking about being in business. It doesn't mean that every entrepreneur is going to become a millionaire, right? Right? It doesn't mean that every entrepreneur is going to be a billionaire, right? But here's also what it doesn't mean, that you have to be scared of that if the God called you to that. If He called you to have $100 million business, it does the world or you no good to pretend like He didn't, right? Or that false humility to say, well, I don't need that much money. Well, the point wasn't that you would have it in your bank account. The point is that God is giving you a gift and probably a circle of influence that He wants to flow through you, whether it be financial resources, but also here's the thing about money, and Solomon said, money answers all things, right? So money has a place in the world, but also it has a place of influence. And God knows people respond to people who have money. So maybe the point wasn't that you had the money. The point was the money got you access to a stage or to a room or to an environment that you wouldn't have gotten there otherwise. So the point is now that you're in the room, now God has maybe a message that he wants to get through you to the people or to a country or to an organization. And so sometimes we make money the point, and the money is not the point. Money is a tool. Money is a resource as a means to get to whatever God's end is, right? And to me, that's also connected to our purpose, right? And I think that's the other thing people don't realize, that we oftentimes spend so much time chasing after the money, and we forget about the purpose and forget about how. But also, here's the other thing: a lot of us are pursuing purpose and we're broke, right? We're pursuing purpose because we somehow disdain money. But no, they need to be working together. Money should fund your purpose, right? Money is a vehicle for you to execute and maximize your purpose, because in that, everybody's purpose is connected to a problem that God wants you to solve for a group of people. Every single person, right? That's connected to your purpose. So guess what? For the most part, now again, here's the thing: some problems are big problems that need a lot of money. Other problems are may not need as much money, but let's say the problem is significant, but you may not need as much money to solve that problem for that group of people, whatever God has called you to do. And so it's really, we have to really understand, how do we put these pieces in place? And so if I understand my purpose is now, God, how do you want me to actualize that purpose? How do you want me to fulfill that purpose? How do you want me to live that out? And then what do I need to get that done? What resources do I need? Is this a business vehicle, right? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a ministry? Is it, am I supposed to be an employee? There's, right, whatever it is, if it honors God, and if it is going to fulfill what he's put inside of you to do, and if it's going to impact people, those are the dots we need to connect. And then money, again, is just the engine to get all that done, right? And so you need money, right? You need gas in your car, right? But so the goal is, like, so we don't go around hoarding gas, right? To say, I just need tanks of gas. Why? The point isn't the gas. The point is I need enough gas for my vehicle, right? And so we can run all of that now. So if you got an 18 wheeler, that's a different type of gas, right? That you need for, a bicycle that you can put, two pints in and ready to go or whatever. So yeah, so that's the I think struggle that a lot of people have is, what is my purpose, but also what season am I in? And maybe what God wanted me to do 5 or 10 years ago, that season is over. Doesn't mean my purpose is. Now he wants to want me to express my purpose in a different way, in a different season. And I need to get with him, engage with him to really figure out and hone in on what that is.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. You said a mouthful.
I
That's a
did.
say
I'm
lie.
sorry. I was trying to slow down.
That's okay, because when it's in you, it's just
Right,
in you.
right.
You know?
Exactly.
I was like, say lie.
Oh
My
my, right.
God, right?
Amen.
I mean, I'm like, I don't
Amen.
even know where to go now, Lord. That's a lot. Jesus.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Because I'm just like, my brain is like,
Right.
because you
Right.
said something that was so, you said a lot,
Mhm.
okay. But there was
Okay.
something significant that you said about, where there is purpose, there has to be that provision. And sometimes
Absolutely.
people are
Yeah.
in that gap where they're walking in
Right.
purpose, but they're not quite seeing the provision. And I
Right.
think
Right.
that is the frustration for a lot of people. It's like, I'm doing what God told
Definitely.
me to do, but I'm not seeing the provision, and it's like, how do I bridge this gap? How do I connect purpose with provision? And we've already
Yeah.
said it, by sitting with him and by
Mhm.
asking him, and being okay with shifting and moving and navigating and doing things differently,
Right.
or moving to another state or another country, for God's sakes.
Right. Right.
Being
Yeah.
open to the new thing. I think sometimes, and you said something even about comparison. We're
Yeah.
looking at how another person is doing what God told us to do. Like, that's the same thing. It don't, you know what?
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't
Right.
matter, because you have
Yeah.
a different audience. Your voice reaches different people, right? Your
Yes.
persuasion is different. I heard someone
Absolutely.
speaking the other day on a podcast, and I was like, golly, it's like I'm watching myself talk through this.
Right. Right.
That person is not me, but everything she's
Mhm.
saying is like what I've either said, or like her life is
Yes.
very similar. And I'm like, Lord, why is there two of us? Right?
Right.
Literally, I
Right.
asked God, like,
Right.
why is there two of us? Right?
Right. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
was like,
Absolutely.
he was like, y'all
Hmm.
have two different personalities.
Right.
You're
Right.
called to
Yeah.
reach two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Yeah.
gifting, what I've put on the inside of you, she doesn't have, and what she has,
Yes.
you don't have, right? And
Absolutely.
so
Right.
that
Right. Right.
comparison, man, is the thief of joy and peace and all kinds of
Yes.
stuff. So
All
I
day
had to
long.
even like
Yeah.
talk myself out of that. Like, well, why am I needed if you already
Right.
got, he was like, girl, if
Right.
you don't go somewhere and
Right.
sit
Right.
down,
Right. Right. Right.
she ain't got what you got. Her name is
Yeah.
not Chai
Exactly.
T. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But that
Right.
is so
Yeah.
good, and it's
It is.
and that
That's a
part
struggle for
of
a lot of
it's
people.
a
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
it's a real struggle. That's real talk,
Yeah.
because like even me in this season of transition, and we kind of like talked about
Mm.
this, where I'm in purpose, and I know I'm in
Yeah.
purpose, like big
Right.
time, and
Right.
there's
Right.
provision. There is provision. Now, I'm
Absolutely.
not saying there's
Yes.
not. It's not
Yes.
as much as I need it to be,
Right. Right.
and that I struggle with a little bit, because, where there is vision, God always gives provision. And sometimes you don't
Yes.
see the provision that you feel like you want, but then
Mm-hmm.
being able to
Yeah.
discern, do I really need it? Like, is
Right.
God really
Right.
teaching me to trust him daily for daily bread
Mm.
right now?
Right.
Is
Right.
this a part of my trust test to say that, do
Mm-hmm.
you thinking about what you need next week? Can you just trust me for
Right. Right.
today?
Right. For
Like, my
today.
brain
Yeah.
goes there. Like, I'm a
Right.
planner.
No, I'm
Like,
with you. I'm
I'm
with
a
you. Yep.
recovering type A personality.
Gotcha.
And God
Right.
is like, I'm gonna take
Right.
A and put it over
Yeah.
here, and I'm gonna take
Yep.
Q and put it up front. And I'm like, what
Mm-hmm.
are you doing? What are you
Right.
doing? Right?
Right. That
And
control,
he's
right?
like,
They messing up my routines.
messing up
Right.
my thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And so he's like, look, I got you. Like, if I got you
Yes.
here, you think I'm just gonna leave you out here and just
Right.
like,
Right. Right. Right.
like, what is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Exactly. Right.
So that
Yeah.
trusting God in the transition is
Yeah.
so big, because many of us have been disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've stepped out on faith before, and it didn't go like we thought it should go, even though that might have been the whole purpose, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
We've, overstayed seasons and had experiences that caused us to lose trust and confidence in ourselves,
Yeah.
our trust and
Absolutely.
confidence in people, our trust and confidence in God. And then it's almost like we're like, that fight, flight, or freeze. We're in a state of
Mm-hmm.
freeze, where
Right.
we don't
Right.
have our fight anymore to keep moving forward, right? And some of us are running from our purpose, but some of us are
Mm-hmm.
just stuck right in the middle
Right.
of purpose.
Right.
Like, where do
Like
I
a
go
deer in
now?
headlights. Right. 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 Like what?
I'm
Right.
here now. What? Right? Come here,
Mm-hmm.
Abraham. Go to
Right.
a place
Right.
that you know not of, and I'll show you when you get
Nothing.
there.
Right. I'm like, wait, what? Exactly. Who does that?
Who
Right.
does that? Right? That's
Right.
the
We're all gonna be there.
trust.
Right. Right.
Right? Who gonna be there?
Yeah.
And who gonna be waiting? You say?
Exactly.
And what
Right.
they gonna be?
What
What
they
they
gonna
gonna
have
be
for me?
wearing?
Right. Right.
What
Exactly.
they
All
gonna? Yeah.
that.
What they gonna be
We
wearing? I
got
want to know
all the
all the
questions.
details.
Right.
And
Exactly.
he like, can you
Yep.
just go? Can you just
Right.
go
Right.
and remain in
Right.
rest from day to day? So
Right.
this trusting God in transition, man, I'm telling you, Paul is huge. It is a huge
Yes.
lesson, I think, that we need to get, because there are going to be many
Right.
transitions in our life, even as we're building in purpose, even as we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of purpose.
Yeah.
But there is a resilience and a trust that we have to have on the inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you say something in the book that is that kind of emphasizes how purpose is portable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How it
Yep.
travels with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there
Absolutely.
are moments when that inner compass,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, is
Right.
this thing broke?
Right. Is this
Banging
thing
it on
on?
the,
Right.
striking the rock
Exactly.
with the compass, like,
It's just going around in circles. Right. Right.
you gotta unpack this. I need therapy,
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
You
I
gotta
got you. I hear you.
Can you
I
give me some
got you.
therapy right now?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So purpose is portable. So one is geographically portable, right? So wherever you in Washington D.C. or Minnesota or Atlanta or on the continent of Africa, right? It's who God has called you to be and where you are. And here's the thing: the natural expression of who you are is going to come out, right? It's gonna flow, right? So recently I had a chance to be in Africa, right? And I was there on a business project, right? But God allowed me to connect with a ministry there, right? And I had a chance to then even do ministry at a conference, right? So that's just a part of who I am, and even in conversations we're talking about business, and certain subjects come up, and all of a sudden we're talking about God's perspective on things. But that wasn't what we were planning to do, right? It wasn't what the project was about. It wasn't right. So when you really understand your purpose and you're locked in on it, and let's say for example, I'm a connector of people, right? It's stuff that you just can't help doing. So no matter where you are, and you could sit there and try to, I'm not going to talk to nobody today. I'm just going to be by myself. And all of a sudden somebody walks up to you, and it just, boom, it just comes out of you, right? Even when you try to hold it in, kind of like Jeremiah says, it's like fire shut up in my bones, right? It's like you just got to get it out of you. And so when you really find your purpose, it excites you, right? Because it also lets you know that whether I'm being paid for this or not, wherever I am, I'm fulfilled. I find joy in actually doing that, and I get excited when I get a chance to, again, if you're an encourager, right? If you're a designer, right? If you're an artist, whatever your purpose is, you and again, even when you try not to do it, it just comes out of you from that standpoint. But I also think that people need to understand that doesn't have to be accidental. It can be very intentional, right? So if God is calling you into a space or into an industry or into an opportunity, you can know that, okay, this is my strength. This is what God has equipped me to do. He's prepared me to do this, and I can be confident about it, right? I can be actually bold about it, and I don't have to shrink away from opportunities when I know, oh, God designed me for this, right? God opened this door. I'm going to step through it with expectation, with confidence, and I don't have to pretend, again, not this false humility stuff, that I'm not good at what he equipped me to be good at, right? And so I think those are the things that we have to understand. And even when we are trying to, like you said, look, find the provision, or and I almost like to say find, because we don't have to go find it. It's the identifying the provision, right? That's already been present. And here's what, and I'm trying to make sure I don't lose my other point. But here's what I think where we also miss it too, is that provision is in a place, right? Provision is in a place. And if God is directing my steps, which he does, he's going to lead me to the place where the provision is. Part of the problem is that we haven't been following the voice of God to get to the place, right? And so that place could be an opportunity. It could be a business. It could be in a geographic location. It could be with a person in a conversation, right? And oftentimes we miss subtle hints, right, that would have led us right to the blessing, and we either ignored it or missed it, and then didn't wonder where the provision is. And it could be as simple as God putting somebody on your heart to make a phone call, right? And you're supposed to be calling that person, and you may not even know why, right? And but you never know that the person had the blessing that you were supposed to call, or the person's name came to the person came to mind, and you just kind of let that thought pass. Like, oh, I hope they're doing okay, right? And then you go on about your business, right? Or it could be anything, sometimes as simple as that, and we don't know that God had the blessing at the other end of that phone call, at the other end of that email, right? Or could have been the biggest contract in your career, and it could have been the simplest thing that we were supposed to be doing, right? And I think that's why we got to stay so in tune with God, right, from that standpoint, because he's always talking. The problem is we got so many other voices and distractions, right, in our ears, that we oftentimes miss his voice, because as he told Elijah, right, it's that still small voice, right? I'm not, in many cases, not coming in the thunder and in the lightning, right? It's that still small voice that I have to pay attention to, because again, many times the instructions for my opportunities, for my breakthrough, for my blessings are in those quiet places, in those quiet times. If I'm expecting him to put up a billboard, right, that's pointing down, come like those cartoons, here, the reward is here, the gold pot is here. 99.7% of the time, I don't even think that's biblical, right? It's not going to happen like that, right? From that standpoint. So yeah, so connecting our provision to our purpose being portable. And here's the other thing, and the last point I'll make right here, right, is our willingness to be flexible with God. We spend a lot of time telling God what to do, And a lot of times telling God what we're not going to do, right? And we don't say it verbally, right? We may not have that explicit thought, but it's how we resist, right? It's the excuses that we give him as to why we're not qualified, right? It's the reasons, right, that will procrastinate in doing things, right? It's all the things that we allow to come up to distract us from the things that he's called and told us to do, so that the thing that I'm supposed to be flowing in my purpose, they don't get done or they get delayed, not because of him, right? It ain't because of him. A lot of times we talk about we're waiting on God. Again, I'm gonna use 99.7% of the time, or whatever percentage, I don't know. He's waiting on us, right? He's waiting on us to say, I need you to wake up, because I've been trying to talk to you. I've been trying to reveal things to you. I've been preparing opportunities for you, and you over here playing in this other stuff, and we're delaying, right, what we should have in many cases, because again, we think we have a better plan than God does. And so we're going to execute our plan until usually we run into a brick wall. And actually, we could have avoided that wall. Look at the children of Israel. They literally could have been in the promised land
Mm-hmm.
immediately. But nope, we're grasshoppers in the eyes of those giants, right? And they even brought back evidence of what God had promised. They literally physically brought back the evidence of what God had
Yes.
promised. And they were
Yes.
still like, we can't do this.
We
And
can't.
God's like, okay,
Wow. Okay. Suit
sure, I'm gonna
yourself.
let you have your way. Exactly. You're gonna take the long way around. He's like, I
Wow.
got eternity. I'm good. So if
Wow.
y'all the ones, right?
It's that
Yeah.
mindset. It's that,
Yes. Yeah.
that inability to sit with God long enough for him to
Mm.
renew our mind so that we
Yes.
can
Yeah.
see the way he sees, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that we
Right.
can
Yeah.
perceive the way he perceived, right?
Yes.
So that we can be led of him.
Mm-hmm.
And God gives you these beautiful training exercises to even see if you
Mm-hmm.
hear his voice
Right. Right.
and if
Right.
you really trust in him again. And I had an experience like that this week. I got up, I kind of relinquished my routine, here
Mm-hmm.
lately, but there's just certain
Sure.
things I do in the morning that are pretty
Right.
consistent. And so after my prayer call, he was like, come and watch the sunrise with me. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay.
Right. Right.
Trying to put my clothes, because I'm looking out the window like the sun is about to rise. I better move
Right.
like now.
Right.
He
Right.
means
Quick.
like
Right. You're
now.
gonna miss it. Right. Right. Right.
You're going to miss this. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yes, Lord. So I put my clothes on really fast. And I'm walking. I'm like, which direction should I walk to see the
Right.
sunrise? I
Right.
was like, I
Right.
had to literally ask which direction. So he told me what direction to walk. And I said,
Mm.
where do you want me to stop? Is there a certain spot you want me to be at to
Right.
watch it?
Right.
So he didn't say anything. And then there was
Mm.
a moment when I got, to the dock. He was like, I want you to wait right here at the dock. And
Mm.
so while I'm waiting on the sun to rise, he turned my attention to the water, right, that was under
Mm.
me. So I'm
Yeah.
waiting, right, for the
Right.
sun to
Right.
rise. I'm in
Right.
position.
Yes.
I'm where he told me to
Yes.
be to see the
Yeah.
sunrise. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting, he's like, take in all this other beauty that's around you,
Mm.
because I
On
have
the way.
something to
Yeah.
say to
Yeah.
you while
Yeah.
you're waiting.
Right.
And
Right.
so I'm watching and I'm looking around, and the water is really calm, and I'm seeing like the little fish jumping up and like the little rings that they make when they're
Right.
drinking and all
Right.
this stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
like noticing like the water,
Yeah.
and I'm
Right.
noticing the current of the water. And I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that
Yeah.
the current was going in one direction. And then I started singing and worshiping, and the current of the water started flowing right towards me.
Wow.
That thing right there started
Right.
ministering to me. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute. Like,
Ooh,
I
that's
thought this was
powerful.
about a sunrise.
Right.
This is right here,
Yeah, I
right?
got so much more. So much more. Right.
I was
So
like,
much more.
oh my God. If people only
Wow.
could just have these moments with
Yes.
him,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
literally and as I'm
Yeah.
watching the current of the water, and I'm just singing, just being me, right? I'm
Right.
just singing.
Right.
As I start to sing, I started to literally notice the current of the water. And he said, the
Mm.
current, the winds, and the waves are moving in
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
He started to
Right. Right.
minister to
Ooh.
me
That's powerful.
through
That's
some
powerful.
water.
Jesus. Jesus, man,
So don't be
right,
distracted right now because
exactly,
everything you
exactly,
need is
yeah.
on the way. Just stay in position.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And it's
Stay in
amazing
position.
how worship,
Woo,
right? Worship begin to attract
Jesus.
that. Worship begin to attract that. And it's those things. And it's interesting, even that you said you have your morning routine. Because I think, but there is a benefit of faithfulness, right? There is a benefit of consistency, right? It's just that so we need those disciplines, but are we flexible enough with God, right? Where if He wants to change it, we're like, okay, I'll go watch the sunrise, right? And I'll tell this brief story. So when I was in Zimbabwe, right? So 9 months prior to coming to Zimbabwe, there was a man of God I said I wanted to connect with, right? Never met him, never had no connection with his ministry, anything like that. So I get to Zimbabwe, and I'd already kind of set up a meeting, but he was going to be out of town. So I'd already lowered my expectation that I'm not going to get to meet him, right? Because he wasn't going to be there. But fortunately, I was going to get a chance to meet with his leadership team. So I had planned this kind of excursion on one of the weekends I was there, since I had a weekend off. So I was gonna go. Had already bought my plane ticket because it was still in country, but we had to fly. But I would have missed church that Sunday, right? And so, but again, I wasn't planning on. But it had already been planned anyway. So the morning, basically about 20 minutes before I was supposed to wake up, I had a dream that just shook me, really shook me to the point I canceled my trip, right? And so I decided not to go. Well, since I didn't go, right, and I believe God was speaking to me in a dream, right? So, but it's not because I decided not to go, I ended up going to his church on that Sunday. Now, mind you, I'm just going to go since I got a free Sunday now to worship. Long story short, I'm standing in the aisle. I hadn't even seen him in the service because service was going on. I'm standing out, I'm worshiping. He literally walks down my aisle and taps me on the shoulder and keeps walking. So in the in time, and I didn't know it was him because my eyes were closed because he was coming behind me, tapping my shoulder. He kept walking, and when I opened my eyes, I'm like in shock. So I'm just messed up the whole rest of the service, like Lord. And so he comes back down my aisle. So I stopped him this time, shook his hand, told him I was there from the U.S. and I appreciated the opportunity, to meet him. And so he hadn't been on stage yet because the service was going on. But by the time he got back on stage, he said, "I want to welcome our visitors from the U.S." And I'm looking around like, am I? I didn't know if it was me or not, but pretty sure it was me. And then he had to leave early because he travels a lot. He walks back down now. This time he stops me. We literally have about a 60-second conversation, right? And then he proceeds out. So something I had spoken 9 months earlier of a desire, and it kind of let the desire go. And also because he was traveling, so I ended up having a meeting with him in the middle of the church service, right? That I wasn't even planning on being there, but because I paid attention to the dream, it opened my schedule up to actually be there. And so as you're talking about, sometimes it's these subtle things, right? That we just got to pay attention because again, God, when we delight ourselves in Him, He gives us the desires of our hearts. And so who knows with not just meeting Him, what that may have set the platform up for something bigger later, right? Where He'll remember the meeting in the aisle in the middle of the church service. Because I actually did then get to meet with His ministry team later, right, the following week to say, hey, I was in service, right? I got to experience your service. Now I'm learning about your community impact projects and things like that. Here's what I'm here doing in the country. We'd love to partner with you all, right? So who knows what God will bring out of that. And it was just a desire. I said, I just want to meet him. I never met him, never, had no connection. So I'm going to his country. I just want to meet him, right? And
Yes.
so when we talk about again our purpose being portable and in this space of God moving us and us being flexible, right, and us being pliable, God will bring us into places. And again, I'll just close with this scripture: eyes have not seen, right, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared for those who love Him. And this really ties back to the beginning of our conversation about how people, again, we lose that sense of wonder. We lose that sense of expectation. We lose that sense of awe and forget that God has so much more waiting for us beyond that we have never seen yet. That again, He has it prepared for us, right? For those who love Him, right? And who can know the mind of God unless we have the mind of Christ?
That's so good. That's so good.
Amen. Yeah.
That's so, may we never lose our
Yeah.
wonder, and
Yeah.
may we
Absolutely.
embrace those moments with him where he can show us
Hmm.
the fresh and the
Yes.
new
Yeah.
and the exciting to something that we may have been doing
Hmm.
forever. And
Right.
so, Father,
Right. Right.
I just feel like this is our
Yeah.
Selah. I feel like
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
place that many of us are right now, where we're learning to trust God in the in
Hmm.
between. We're learning to trust Him in the transition. And it is
Yeah.
scary.
Yes.
But the one thing I know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that He can be trusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
I don't trust
Absolutely. Yeah.
myself, He
Yeah.
can be
Right.
trusted.
All day long.
Right?
All day long.
And
Absolutely.
so I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful for purpose and,
Hmm.
passion and, the fact that we have this internal GPS, which is that of the
Yes.
Holy Spirit, our internal
Yes.
compass that leads
Absolutely.
us, right? And being
Absolutely.
able to embrace those subtle moments with God and being able to see and hear the still small voice to know how to continue to
Yeah.
navigate the new spaces and places that He's going to be leading many of us to. Tell us how
Absolutely.
we can
Absolutely.
get Purposenomics. Can you tell our audience how they can get Purposenomics?
Yes, absolutely. So paulwilsonglobal.com. Go to the website. And it's actually you can even get a free sample download copy if you just want to at least get read the introduction and see what it's about and see what I'm writing about. Please go again paulwilsonglobal.com. Go right to the website. You can download that, and then of course I also have a course. So you can not only get the book, but also there's a course that you can take where you can walk step by step, right? To again find your meaningful and profitable work, what God has called you to do, but also again that you can prosper from doing that work. So definitely look forward to you reading the book and all of you, your audience, reading the book and taking the course and sharing what you receive from it and how God is directing you as a result. So thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This has been incredible. Each time gets better, right?
It gets better
Each
and
time
better,
gets
gooder
better.
and gooder and gooder. I
Gooder
mean,
and
I'm
gooder,
just saying.
absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you again,
Mhm.
Paul, for being a co-host on the Marketplace Pastors
Yes.
podcast. I'm so excited about this course and this book. I'm looking forward to digging
Yes.
in while I have capacity to really learn and grow, because I am in a new season and
Yes.
God has me in a holding pattern for a reason. So why don't I learn
Right.
and study and
Yeah,
grow? And so
absolutely.
I encourage you all to do the same. Go ahead and get this digital copy of
Mhm.
Purposenomics, as well as invest in this e-course. It is going to be a game changer in this season for you. We want to say thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us on the Marketplace Pastors podcast, and we'll see you in the boardroom next
Yes.
time. See you
Yeah.
soon.